A very pleasant good day to all of our viewers and those who are listening via Second Advent Radio. Welcome to Marriage Encounter. We are so delighted to be with you on the airways and really very excited to continue the discussion that we started last week. We have been talking about values. We have been discussing the value of honesty, and we have deliberately, I should say, taken a long time to finish this one because of the importance and how it is so very impactful on the quality of your relationship. With me today is Dr. Braithwaite. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Greene, and good day, everybody. You know, we are always excited to be in your presence, trusting that you're doing well. This discussion on honesty has been very intriguing and very relatable. I think a lot of persons can actually identify with what we've been discussing, and so we hope it's been really meaningful to you. Again, we continue to encourage you to encourage your friends and other relatives to watch, and we always look forward to your feedback. So at the end of the program, when you get the email address, please reach out to us via email so that we can continue the discussion.
Well, we invite you to have a word of prayer with us at this time. Eternal Father and our God, be with us as we go into this very important program. As we continue our discussion on honesty, we ask for your wisdom and your guidance. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Last week we mentioned that one of the reasons why people are sometimes dishonest or even deceptive is because of fear.
Yes. Yes.
And we want to give a synopsis, Dr. Braithwaite. Cloud and Towson provide a really nice summary of some pointers that individuals need to work through. It is important that we understand that, you know, pledging to be honest is really important. There are some specific steps. If you have been having some issues in this area, there are some specific steps that we want you to consider. And the first one, have enough grace to tell the truth. You know, you're promising each other that you are going to be truthful with one another. Have enough grace to tell the truth. Promise that you will never punish your spouse for being honest. Now, Doc, you know, sometimes you hear couples say, we decide that we're going to be honest with one another, and when I open up and speak the truth, it puts me in trouble.
Right. Yeah, you know, a lot of people, well, some people will say, you know, you can't handle the truth, you know. But the reality that we're trying to establish here is that, you know, honesty is really the best policy in the context of your relationship. And establishing a relationship that is built on honesty obviously can be extremely helpful, can be extremely productive for the relationship, even though sometimes the truth may be what we may consider to be a hard truth. It may be a significant truth. Sometimes the ability to express it in a way that creates a little more of a comfort zone is important too. Learning the art of communication, Doc, I think is critical. I've often said that, you know, as men in particular, we really do not master the art of using language that can help to make something a little more palatable. You know, sometimes our language, our terminology is a bit weak, and so we end up using words sometimes that can be hurtful. But, you know, being honest, we just want to encourage you, is really important, really critical, and can absolutely help to establish a strong relationship and a more intimate one when it is done the right way.
Now, Doc, I want to just perhaps say that there is, you know, if I tell the truth and I did something wrong, I should not be punished for telling the truth,
right,
but there are consequences, and I should be prepared to deal with the consequences of my misbehavior. For example, if you are married and you were dishonest in that you had an affair with somebody else, and you decide to come clean and tell your spouse, you don't expect your spouse to say, okay, that's it.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. You know, there will be some consequences.
Right.
You know, and I think it's important to make the distinction between being punished and consequences. Because when you break trust in your partner, then your partner is going to need some time to heal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So I was just going to continue with your illustration, because some persons will say, since I've told you, you're not treating me the same, and as you said, that person's response is not out of a sense of punishment necessarily, but it may be just a natural consequence of that type of an action. An individual where trust has been broken, obviously, as you mentioned, Doc, would need time to heal. And that healing may come from that person in different ways. As they heal, they may be a little quieter than normal. They may relate to situations a little differently. And hence, the one who may have made the infraction, so to speak, needs to be patient as they allow as those consequences unfold.
Yeah, I find that a lot of times in relationships where there is infidelity, the guilty person, and by guilty I mean guilty of committing the act of infidelity.
Yes.
The guilty person oftentimes deny it.
Right.
And only gets to the point of admitting when he or she realizes that they're cornered.
Right, they have nowhere else to go.
There's nowhere else to go, you know.
Yeah.
So here you are denying that, okay, that girl is a friend of mine,
Right,
but nothing
right.
is going on, and so on. And then your spouse stumbles across evidence, concrete evidence, and then you have to admit, that is hardly being honest,
Right.
Right.
It's forced honesty almost.
That's right.
Right.
So it is now let's assume that is the case, right? And your spouse were to say to you, listen, okay, I'm not going to end the relationship, but I need you to come clean with anything else.
Right.
And at that point you decide, let me come clean, and you say, well, there's this other person and there's that other person. There are going to be consequences.
Absolutely. There have to be consequences.
And we have to recognize
right,
that.
and that's the point, really established very strongly. And as I indicated, the person may need some space. That person may indicate, listen, I need some time to deal with this. And that, as you mentioned, is not out of a sense of punishing you, but it comes out of a natural consequence of a person attempting to maybe shield themselves, maybe to begin a process of emotional healing, and that comes with various steps and stages. And the response may seem to the one who committed the adultery in this instance, based on this illustration, may seem hard, but it's a process that the person needs to work through.
Well, somebody may be saying right now, so let me ask you, well, if I admit and there are consequences, why admit?
Right.
So how do you respond to that?
Right. I think, as we mentioned, and as we've been saying over and over again, we are indicating that, honesty is important in the relationship. You're trying to build intimacy in your relationship. The person needs to know that they can trust you. And you need to know that you can trust this person. And at the end of the day, if there cannot be an established trust relationship, then you cannot experience the true intimacy of a growing relationship.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you're dishonest, you're not being real.
Right.
And
you're not being authentic. Yeah.
And that's it. If there was a lack of authenticity, then your spouse isn't really loving you.
Right.
Because you are not who you claim
who you say you are. Absolutely. So that's why it becomes so important to share the truth. And there's so many areas. I mean, infidelity is one, but we've spoken about finances, and there's so many other areas that we could consider as we look at this whole issue of honesty and the critical nature of being honest to build intimacy in your relationship.
But the other point here, Doc, number two, in some ways is connected, but give each other free rein to question and check out things with each other. Now, the matter of questioning. I've had situations where an individual did something wrong, terribly wrong.
Yes.
And they admit they did wrong, but they don't want their spouse to question, why did this happen, the details.
Right.
If you are wrong, hey, listen, a part of being wrong is humility.
Yes.
And if you're going to allow your spouse to rebuild trust in you, you've got to be forthcoming with the inquiries.
Yes. So, I think some persons may say it's uncomfortable, or it probably would be uncomfortable for the individual who has to divulge the information. And critically in this context is, as you mentioned, recognizing that this is about now rebuilding trust. And the person who is on the receiving end of the infraction, so to speak, would have questions that they would want to have answered. The one who may have committed the offense is the one who has the information. And so in order to continue the journey of intimacy, Pastor, the person needs to be comfortable that, hey, possibly something else isn't going to pop up down the road. I think I have all the information. Somebody, if somebody, how our society is, somebody may come and make a statement or ask a question, and rather than being in a position of, I don't know, your spouse would want to be able to respond if needs be and say, yes, I'm aware of so and so and so, and this is the situation. And they can feel confident that the information that they now have is correct.
And I think it's even more important when you are coming out of a situation where one of you was dishonest. Mm-hmm. Because when a person is dishonest, when a person lies, when a person does not disclose the truth, mm-hmm. the other party has to be very sure that what they're hearing is true.
It's correct. That's right.
And so they're going to need to quiz you. They're going to need to ask questions.
Right.
They're going to have uncertainties. I wonder if he's holding back something.
Right.
So let me probe. Let me ask questions. And what we're saying here is that what you want to do is to give each other free rein to question and check out things. Mm-hmm. If the incident occurred because your spouse stumbled across a text message, say to your spouse, listen, here is my password on my phone.
Right.
You're free to check it out anytime you want to. Right. That kind of thing. Right. So you have to function in a way where you become totally transparent.
Yeah. I think, and just as we discuss this area, if a person is not accustomed, Doc, to practicing that type of communication in their marriage, it's going to be a significant challenge. And I make that point to help people to appreciate how valuable learning how to communicate well is in the context of your relationship, and being able to share, being able to talk about, just everything that's going on in the relationship. Sometimes, persons will be out, you and your spouse may be out, and I use this example sometimes, and, a wife sees that maybe there's a lady across the room who's checking out her husband, looking and making opportunities to come and talk to the person. I mean, that is something that you and your spouse should be able to talk about openly and freely, and the husband can say, how that made him feel, how uncomfortable it made him feel, or, whatever the situation is. And you can have a discussion about it. You talk about everything, Doc. Some persons believe when they're married, there are things that are off limits to talk about. You don't talk about other persons showing interest if that is a reality in you. You don't talk about uncomfortable situations, maybe in the office or at work. You don't talk about certain financial realities. You don't talk about certain family interactions. And I dare say that if your relationship is one where you find it difficult to communicate about things, I suspect that your relationship will have significant challenges going down the road.
Well, I immediately reflect back to the parenting seminar.
Yes.
Last Tuesday night.
Yes.
And the presenter, Dr. Martin, was saying that if you are from a family where you are accustomed to talking, to discussing issues and being transparent, and you marry somebody who is from a family that
totally opposite. They
don't talk. They keep everything inside and they shield everything. Right. Then you may have a challenge, and this is why, again, premarital counseling is so important.
Absolutely.
I try to say this every opportunity. But that's one of the reasons why it is so important, because if if your spouse is not comfortable speaking, now you ought to be able to pick that up during courtship.
Absolutely. But again, some people pick it up during courtship, Doc, but they do not appreciate the impact that it will have on a long-term relationship. And again, you cannot build intimacy without communicating. If you as Dr. Josiah Martin mentioned that scenario, my mind just raced because I'm thinking how uncomfortable it would be for somebody who is accustomed to talking, expressing, sharing, laughing, and just being open about their feelings to be locked into a house with somebody who does not communicate. That has to be a really difficult experience.
It is a challenge, but it does happen.
It happens all the time.
And unfortunately, it's fairly common.
Yes.
So give each other free rein. Allow them to question you. Allow them to probe, to satisfy their curiosity. Mm-hmm. And when they get to the point where they're satisfied, then you're in the right direction.
You can move forward. You can move forward. Yes.
Yeah. I think we have another one here. And this one, Doc, is kind of very interesting. Police each other when you see your spouse not being totally honest.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, we're talking here about things that you need to commit to between the two of you.
Right.
And so we're saying you are making a decision. May I just review quickly? You're making a decision to have enough grace, number one, to be honest with each other. You're giving each other free rein to question and check out things and to probe if necessary. And now you're policing each other. Remember last week we were talking about the common fears, fear of being of real closeness, and fear of abandonment, and fears of control and being possessed. Well, now you're committing yourself to doing these things. And this one says, police each other when you realize that somebody is not being honest.
Right. And I think the context is so important. It only uses the term police in the context where you are aware that one person isn't being honest. And, I think within this context, it's very palatable, meaning that, you do need somebody, if a person has a problem with honesty, you need somebody to hold them accountable. I think that's the point.
And what I find interesting, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
But it's like saying, listen, I'm discussing with my spouse. If I was the one that had the problem with dishonesty or deception, and I get to this point where I'm saying to my spouse, listen, let's promise each other some things. And one of the things I want to promise you is that you have my permission to police me if you suspect I'm being dishonest.
Right. If any of my actions are, sort of a paralleling things that you saw before that seem to put me in this situation, then you have free rein to investigate, to ask, to police
What
me.
I like about that, Doc, is that you are saying to your spouse, I'm going to be accountable to you.
Right. That's it.
And you can check me out.
That's right.
You can go to the bank and see the transactions.
That's right. Just go and take a look. Yeah. And it makes sense. It makes sense because it also highlights the fact that you have come to the place where you've introspected and you realize you can acknowledge that you have a problem. And so you need help, and support. Now, again, I make the point that, for a lot of men in the context, that's something difficult because, men are generally very egotistical. But, if you respect and appreciate and if you hold your relationship in high esteem, Doc, I think it's something that you would be more than willing to do, to preserve, and not only to preserve, but also to grow your relationship. Just imagine with me a person who may have had an addiction to marijuana, and the person is now making a decision to come off of marijuana, and the person says to you, listen, I have some buddies, I have some friends, I have some things. You've seen my actions when I was on this drug. Anytime that you see me sort of in that direction, you have free rein to come and inquire of me what's going on.
Exactly. And check me out.
Yes,
if you suspect that my answers are not forthcoming.
Yeah, check it out.
Do what you need to do to check.
That's right.
Because I think this is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That you can say that to your spouse and mean it.
Yes.
You're not just saying it, but you're meaning it.
Mean it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again,
And you are really benefiting from that because you know now that your spouse is going to do what is necessary. And I like the illustration, Doc. You struggled with drugs sometime in the past, and you're saying anytime you see something that is a little so, come and talk to me about
talk
it.
to me, yeah.
Be a police. Do your
That's
investigations.
right. That's right. Check it out. Check me out.
Yeah.
Because I really want this thing to work. I want to. I want. In this case, I want to stay off the drugs. In the case of marriage, I want our relationship to move forward and be successful. And that's what I'm committing to.
Yeah, that's right. I think we could get in another one here.
One more.
Become a partner in your spouse's life to heal the underlying fears of being dishonest.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
Nice. Yeah.
sorry, I think I said that wrong. To heal the underlying fears of being honest. So that if I am fearful of being honest, I'm saying to my partner, let us agree that we're going to help each other along this journey.
Yeah.
If one of you has a problem with a bad habit, an addiction, whatever the addiction is, you're saying to the other person, I have this problem. I want you to help me with this. And when you can say that to your spouse, you're going to get the help.
Yeah, I think, it's like the ultimate in terms of transparency, Doc. Where you are putting, so to speak, everything on the table and you're saying, this is me. Maybe I've hidden the real me for a while, so this is me and I'm asking for your assistance. I'm asking for your help. And I'm giving you, every opportunity to be a part, be involved deeply in my experience so that you can be there for my success. As we say, Doc, the whole matter of growing together, that whole matter of being intimate, where you, in your head, and in your experience, that my spouse is genuine. Everything about this person is genuine, even in areas where there may be challenges, but they're genuine. And I like the word authentic as well. Even as we shared in the parenting seminar, that's something somebody mentioned to me, is that they really enjoy the presentations because the presenter is so authentic, so real about the experiences of life.
And when you make a decision to become involved in your spouse's life, in those areas where you're challenged, where each other is challenged, because you may have a problem with honesty, your partner may have a problem with something else. But you're going to be involved in each other's lives. You are really fulfilling your responsibility as a spouse, where you are supporting each other, you are helping each other. Where one is weak, the other is strong, and you're holding up one another. And I think that is really a good formula for success.
Yes, it is. It is. So that's in the context of honesty, Pastor, the journey, and I don't think we've said here or sort of insinuated that anybody is perfect. All right, so we're clear that each person has their own challenges, but as a unit, as you come together, you really would desire that you can create an environment in your marriage where honesty is the practice of the day. Where you are honest in terms of things that you like, from the simplest of things that you like, foods that you eat. Your spouse prepares something and you don't like it. You should be able to say that's not my preference.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And again, maybe your background, your upbringing, you may need to practice this. And you mentioned earlier, Doc, that communication is a learned behavior. It is so important that we understand that we are not born as excellent communicators.
That's correct.
We have to learn the process.
That's
and
correct.
Sometimes you have to experience the awkwardness of literally sitting down and practicing these things. And sometimes in some of our seminars, when we give people assignments, you see the awkwardness, but as they work on it, and I've had couples saying, it wasn't really fun at first. It was a little awkward. I didn't know what to do, what to say, but I'm seeing how this can help.
Valuable it is,
and that's the important thing.
Yeah.
We have to be humble enough to recognize that, maybe I don't have it right here.
Right.
But if you practice, which is why I like to say, I find, Doc, that a lot of people do not utilize the opportunity to attend seminars, family life seminars. When we are talking about marriage enrichment, when we're talking about parenting, we assume we know.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that we don't know.
Yeah, and you know, information is really power. You know, as you listen to somebody maybe walk you through the issues of communication or conflict resolution, and you begin to see strategies, and you begin to see sort of where you would have erred and why it created certain challenges. I mean, it's so empowering, especially if you can take that information and utilize it, practice it in the context of your relationship and see relationship grow. I mean, I've heard people, you know, after having been to seminars or, you know, some type of program say, you know, my relationship has definitely taken a turn for the better because of some of the things that I'm able to practice now.
And I think that's the idea behind you recognizing that deception or dishonesty has been a challenge in our relationship, but we are agreeing to do something about it, and we are making this commitment to each other. We are going to have enough grace to tell the truth.
Yes.
We are going to give each other free rein to question and to check out things if necessary. We are going to permit each other or authorize each other to police the other when we recognize that there is a suspicion of dishonesty. And we just mentioned we're going to become involved in our partner's life to heal the underlying fears of being dishonest. There are a couple more, but we don't have time to deal with them today. We want to encourage you to, if you're listening and your spouse is not listening with you, you can listen again this evening at 6:30, I believe, or on Saturday at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Yes,
and get your spouse to listen with you. It's an important exercise when you can listen and discuss together.
Absolutely. It reinforces, it helps to build, it helps you to grow, and ultimately you will see greater success in your own relationships. And that's our desire here at Marriage Encounter.
That's right. That's all the time we have. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, or just a note to say how much you have been enjoying this program, that is something we would really welcome. The mailing address is Marriage Encounter at slcadventist.org. Again, Marriage Encounter at slcadventist.org. That's all our time for today. Until next week, may God's richest blessings be yours.